Since the dawn of time, the Super Mario series has been around for all of us to enjoy. Well, maybe not that early, but at least for a long time. And in all these games, we've seen a certain species time and time again trying to stop us from completing our quest, the Koopas. However, in all those years, we've seen them change and new kinds were introduced. So let's find out how they changed in all those years when it comes to gameplay, style, story, and use. Little side note though, we won't go into every single variation of a certain subspecies. For example, all the different kinds of Koopa Troopas that are out there, or Hammer Bros, because that would be way too much and wouldn't really add that much to the video. Now, all of this started in Super Mario Bros, which was released in 1985 for the NES, where we first came into contact with them. It seems like most Koopas operate in a hierarchy-based system with the mighty Bowser as their leader. However, not all are allied with him. Some, such as the ones of Koopa Village, live peacefully inside the borders of the Mushroom Kingdom, while others such as Koopa the Quick and the Roving Racer simply hold no allegiance and operate independently. Now, Bowser has invaded the Mushroom Kingdom many times and does have control over most of the Koopas seen in the Mario franchise. They are known for their black magic, and some members that were later introduced are extremely good at it, just like Bowser. Now, when it comes to the origin of this species, there's only one clue out there. However, it's a spin-off game, so take it with a grain of salt. In Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, it's stated that Koopas are apparently evolved from the shell creepers of Mario Bros., while the Japanese text exclusively mentions Koopa Troopas. So this could be their possible origin. These creatures were seen in Mario Bros., which was an arcade game that Nintendo made before. These enemies do look a lot like the turtle creatures seen in Super Mario Bros., so it would be fitting. Now, all of them have different tasks in the organization based on the abilities of their particular class, and were introduced in different games bit by bit. So let's start with the very first one we ever saw, the Koopa Troopas, who tend to be basic foot soldiers alongside Goombas. They're quite basic and just walk back and forth with some small differences between them, like different shell colors that made them slightly different. Just like the Goombas, they're extremely simplistic. However, there's another type that looks a lot like them, but is quite different, and also of a higher status. The Hammer Bros, which are Bowser's elite soldiers. The biggest difference between them is that they can stand upright, wear helmets and shoes, and throw hammers. This gives them amazing offensive capabilities, which makes them some of the best in Bowser's army. There are even different types of them that can throw or fire other things than just hammers, such as boomerangs, ice and fireballs, and way more. This makes them extremely powerful and a lot more capable than normal Koopas or Goombas. But besides this creature, there were two more quite simplistic land soldiers that were very similar to each other, the Buzzy Beetle and Spiny. These are a bit similar to the Koopa Troopa, but either have a tougher shell or even spikes on them so that Mario can't jump on them. Besides that, they're not that special. Just another enemy to make it a bit harder for the heroes to complete their quest. And for our final enemy seen in the very first title, we will look at the Lakitu, the only Koopa that could fly in this game. They are goggled Koopas who ride clouds through the skies, and which can occasionally be found snorkeling in water and hiding behind walls or in pipes. Unlike most Koopa species, they do not have snouts or beaks, but flat faces with round noses. They attack by throwing an unlimited number of spiny eggs at you, and some will also dangle one-up mushrooms from fishing poles to lure their targets closer. This is something we have never seen them do, so when it comes to Koopas, the Lakitu is certainly an interesting one. It does confirm one thing though. Koopas most likely came from eggs, and it could also be that the Lakitu are even directly related to the Spinies, since they have eggs of them. I'm not sure about it, but it does look like this is the case. Now, in the very first title, all these different Koopa species play a different role. The Koopa Troopas, Spiny and Buzzy Beetles are basically cannon fodder. They are only there to possibly slow down the player, but if they don't or are even taken out, then it doesn't really matter. From a game design standpoint, they also have this role. Simplistic enemies to make platforming harder, but they're not really there to present a big threat that you need to take out. This is where the Hammer Bros come in. These are set up as a big challenge which are extremely hard to get past. The amount of hammers they throw makes it hard to ignore them. They are the elite of Bowser and you will notice that quite quickly. Most of the encounters you have with the Koopa Troopas are meaningless, but when you come across these, then you will have to focus. Out of all the enemies in the first game, they are most likely one of the most difficult, and it usually ends in a fight where you take them out just to be safe. But what about the Lakitus then? Well, they work a little bit different, because you can't really take them out that easily. They constantly fly away and don't really attack. Their spinies do all the work, so they're more like a flying spawn point that keeps following you. But if you're able to take one down, you are rewarded with his cloud, which allowed you to just fly over everything. So overall, their role is quite different and unique even. They first try to lure you in and then all of a sudden drop down a nasty surprise. A classic trap enemy that will mislead you just to win. Now after this, a couple of new types were introduced in both Super Mario Bros. 3 and World. Sadly enough, it's never explained where these new Koopa subspecies came from. They kind of always appear out of nowhere. For example, one of the new types seen in Super Mario Bros. 3 is the Rocky Wrench, which is labeled as a Koopa, but in some games also looks like a mole. This is because they had been redesigned to greatly resemble Monty moles in new Super Mario Bros. Wii. I'm not 100% sure what their plan was, because in the first game they looked like Koopas with shells and all, and in later games they didn't, so take it with a grain of salt. Now they are enemies that pop out of manhole covers on airships at random, throwing wrenches at you. Which makes me think that they are the mechanics of the airship, which explains why we haven't seen them before, since these mighty machines weren't in the first game. Now there's also another new enemy in Super Mario Bros. 3, the Spikes. These throw spiked balls or something similar to it to harm you. Overall, not an extremely interesting type of Koopa. It just seems to be a bit smaller, which proves that they come in different shapes and sizes. But another thing they started to do from this point onward is introduce special one-off types that played a bigger role in the game. Like the Boom Booms, who are mini-bosses that are a lot stronger than your average Koopa, and have a lot bigger arms than normal ones. And with this new subspecies, we finally got to see female Koopas as well. Not just one in the Koopaling group, which we will get to in a second. These girl Boom Booms named Pom Poms are first seen in Super Mario 3D Land, which is quite some time after their first appearance. But it at least shows that the opposite gender does exist, which certainly helps explain where any new types come from, and the newborns of course. Which brings us to the other boss enemies, the koopalings, which are the children of Bowser and seem to be a similar subspecies to him. Just like Boom Boom, they are used as bosses and help Bowser in a lot of his plans. However, we know almost nothing about them. Their origin is shrouded in mystery. For example, who is their mother? Why do they all look so different? And there are a lot more questions like these. They are probably one of the most mysterious types of Koopas, together with Bowser, whose origin is also a bit vague, but was at least seen as a baby. Nintendo later on even said they aren't related to Bowser, but actually adopted, and that only Bowser Jr., who is also sort of part of this group, is the only real child of Bowser. I have made multiple videos on this topic before, so check the upper right corner for those to get an idea on what's happening. Now overall, the new enemies introduced in this game only had two roles. Either being a ranged enemy to fill the screen with more stuff that can be your end, and filling the boss role in this game since the first Super Mario Bros. Games didn't really have anything special, just fake Bowsers. While the second game, that wasn't set in the Mushroom Kingdom, had different and interesting bosses. And so they wanted to make some better ones, who even ended up returning in later titles because people liked them so much. Now let's move on to the last type of Koopa seen in the game that came after Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World. First up, the Charging Chucks, who are extremely different from any other ones we have looked at so far. These are big and a lot more muscular than any of the others, and wear American football gear. For some reason, they have a variety of attacks and sport-based weaponry, such as damaging baseballs and footballs. I'm not sure where this came from. To be honest, it's a bit weird and doesn't fit with any of the others. Now we move on to our last Koopa subspecies. And this one is most likely one of the most intelligent and powerful together with Bowser and the koopalings. The Magic Koopas, who can cast spells, fly on broomsticks, and are generally considered to be high-ranking members of the Koopa troop. They are often given advisory roles due to their magical abilities and gift of foresight. One of them, named Kamek, even raised their soon-to-be leader Bowser, and even seems to be a leading figure among his kind. These new types had quite different roles in the game. One as a ranged special enemy that was even used in puzzles, and the other was a quick and rushing tank that rolls through the levels. So, now that we know all the different types of Koopas out there in the world, we can explain what their society under Bowser looks like. Now at the bottom we have the Spiny and Buzzy Beetle. There are a ton of them and have no special role in any way. Above them we have the Koopa Troopa, who are just foot soldiers, similar to infantry seen in armies today. Now after this we get into the more specialized types of Koopas like the Rocky Wrenches, who play a role in airships, and others with better attacks like spikes and charging chucks. Then we get to the higher ranking members like the Magic Koopas and Hammer Bros, who are among the elites in the army and even outside of that. And last but not least we get the very top. Here you will find the koopalings and boom booms, who guard strategic points like towers and castles, giving them a lot of power and responsibility. So as you can see, the Koopa race is quite big and a lot of new species have joined in the past years, making it bigger and more diverse, filling every role in their army and society. And who knows what will happen in the future. Thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed. If you want to watch more videos, be sure to click those lovely annotations, click subscribe and click the bell button because YouTube sucks at notifications. And comment, like, and watch more videos, please.